Hello, my name is Yaron Spiwak. I'm the music director for the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles, and I'm going to start this morning with a little song. Oh, 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 oh. Start the awakening, feel the light of the divine. Open your consciousness to the science of your mind. Embrace your own divinity, cause if you seek, then you shall find. But don't forget to give yourself a little bit of time. You gotta restore, refresh, renew your soul. Grow the roots of love so you can stand tall. You gotta restore, refresh, renew, and rejoice. Let the power of God speak in your voice. Oh, 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 oh. Today I will choose wisely. To myself I will be kind. Revel in the grace of God and of the divine. Grow tall and not grow tired, to rejuvenate. And remember to stop and give ourselves a break. We gotta restore, refresh, renew your soul. Grow the roots of love so you can stand tall. You gotta restore, refresh, renew, and rejoice. Let the power of God speak in your voice. Oh, 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 oh. You gotta restore, refresh, renew your soul. Grow the roots of love so you can stand tall. You gotta restore, refresh, renew, and rejoice. Let the power of God speak in your voice. Let the power of God speak in your voice.
Good morning, Yaron.
Good morning. How
How
are you today?
fantastic to hear that original song that you just created for us, honoring our theme for the month: restore, refresh, renew. And then you added rejuvenate. I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Good weather.
fantastic. And just
Fine.
ready for a beautiful day. And and a great time together today. And that song just certainly kicks us off into a frame of mind that is going to allow us to restore, refresh, and renew in the power of the divine. And I love how your lyric said, use the voice, let your voice be the voice of God, I believe it was, or the reverse of that. But it's that action that takes place, that the action of unity as we speak our truth. Well, that's your truth that you just sang for us. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Yaron Spiwak, our music director here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. We're so blessed to have him. He'll be back with us later today, along with a wonderful musical artist that we have as a guest artist today, and our conversations. We'll see you in a bit, Yaron. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Dr. Keith Cox, the spiritual leader here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. It's a pleasure to be here with you as you join us for our Sunday morning celebration service on April 25th in the year 2021. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today if you're joining us live through Zoom and or Facebook Live, or at a later date on our YouTube channel. Please know that you're celebrated exactly where you are today. And may this time that we're together during the Sunday celebration service be one that provides for you the opportunity to restore, to refresh, to renew, and to rejuvenate your soul, your mind, your being into a remembrance of who you are as a divine being as we walk this journey of life on planet Earth day by day by day. We have a really fantastic time together that's planned for us this morning. As I shared just a moment ago, we have one of our very special guests as a musical artist, Amy Steinberg. You'll get to hear her both present an original and a song that she's doing in an original format. And I'm so excited this morning to continue my conversations with Dr. Keith with a beloved soul brother of mine, Reverend David Leonard from the Centers for Spiritual Living, but mostly from the Spirit itself, expressing himself as he lives in Huntsville, Alabama. And he'll be with us later on in the service as we move into that. And so I welcome you once again, and I'm going to throw up on our screen our ongoing graphics that we use for our morning opening, and invite you to take a deep breath in and to take a moment to acknowledge where you're at on the journey of your personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. And so, as I said, we are known as the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. And so, a big hello and a welcome to you all in our community, for spring indeed has sprung. I live here in the city of Los Angeles, and spring has sprung whereby it's June gloom a bit early here in the mornings and chilly and cold, and then the sun comes out and it's a beautiful afternoon. And that's what's transpiring today, reminding us of that opportunity to restore, refresh, and renew and rejuvenate. We come together as a community and have for over 30 years to honor the power of the divine that exists within us. We like to kick off our service every time that we're together by honoring that Sanskrit ancient tradition of namaste. Namaste, as we place our hands together physically at our heart and look into the eyes of the beloved before us, which in this case I'm looking at myself on screen, but I invite you to do that as well as to imagine all the individuals that you come in contact with on a daily basis and those that are joining with us right now during this time together. And let's honor the divine within them, the light within them. And so let's all take a deep breath in together. And as we exhale, bowing forward, together say the words out loud. The divine in me honors and acknowledges and celebrates the divine in you. And so, as I said, we have come together for well over 30 years as a community that welcomes all races, all religions, all countries of origin, all sexual orientations, all genders, and all abilities. For we stand with you, and you are safe here in our home, both virtually and literally. We honor you for who you are on your journey of expressing yourself as a divine being and becoming more and more in tune and aware of the power that exists and resides within each and every one of us. Our founding minister, Dr. David Walker, as he would stand before us all in person on Sunday mornings, and we would all affirm together in this acknowledgement of welcoming. And I invite you to do that with me, to say, we welcome one and we welcome all. We welcome one and we welcome all. As a community, we've come together over the years to know who we are as a divine being, to practice primarily the philosophy and faith and way of life known as the science of mind. It's a teaching that gives us the opportunity to use our mind, our heart, our soul, and our being, our essence in a way to make a difference on this planet through tending to our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, our reactions, and interactions with the thing itself, life itself. The vision statement for this community for many years was indeed making a difference. And the impetus behind that was making a difference in our own lives, but the lives of others. And so today I encourage you, as you participate in this service through the act of being present and listening, to make a covenant and a commitment with yourself to make a difference in a new way as life unfolds day by day. Our vision statement presently is the journey we honor for each and every individual of finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. And so today I encourage and invite you to check in with yourself on where you're at on your journey of your spiritual awakening and how self-empowered you feel personally in this moment. And then open up to the willingness, to the opportunity, to the intention for that to expand and evolve, because that is indeed what we're called here to do. We open our service every Sunday morning with a ritual. And that ritual is called calling in the light. And so let's all take a deep breath in and honor that power that is within us. And as we focus on the orb of light, remembering the light that exists within each and every one of us. And to know together that today we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all people and all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities that we possess as complete expressions of the divine. And so as we feel the vibrations shift during this experience, hearing the tinkling on the keyboard of the piano, may we become ever more aware of the light of life that exists in and as all expressions of life, which includes you and it includes me. I have a prayer and a blessing for us this morning in the next phase of our ritual. And I invite you to hear it anew, to hear it in the affirmative of I am, two of the most powerful words that exist in our vocabulary. It's titled A Prayer for Health. And it's this: I affirm the one power and the one presence of the omnipotent God. I affirm that this power and presence created me and is within me always and forever. The power of God and the presence of God exist within my mind, my heart, and my soul. The omniscience of God, which is divine creative intelligence, is in every cell and every atom of my physical body. Divine creative intelligence now creates new and healthy cells, now, and restores my body to perfect health. I affirm and proclaim God's omnipotence in eradicating and replacing disease cells with new and healthy cells now. The divine omnipotent power of God is greater than the fear and worry that I imagine in my mind. I affirm and proclaim that God's omnipotence removes this fear and worry, and I call upon the presence of God within me to lift and sustain me through any current difficulty. For I am healed in body and mind by the divine creative intelligence in my soul. I am radiant in God's perfect love and power. And I am grateful for the presence of creative divine intelligence in my being, for I recognize and proclaim this truth as my truth. And so it is. As we continue this ritual affirming the power and the presence and the light of life that exists within us, Yaron will take us through our song called Calling in the Light. And I affirm you to sing along as the lyrics will be on the screen for the call and response piece.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light. Oh.
And so it is. Thank you, Yaron. I just love that new version of Calling in the Light.
Thank you.
Quite wonderful. Thank you so much. I love it. Thank you so much. Love the track behind it. It's great. Thank you. Ah, what a great morning so far. It's just a joy and a pleasure to introduce to you our guest musical artist this morning. Many of you are familiar with her, but if you're not, she's just a bundle of love and energy and light and just the presence of the divine expressing itself in all of its magnificence. It's no mistake, as I said earlier this morning in our rehearsal, that we have this beloved being and our conversation guest today, because I was with the two of them probably a year and a half ago, like last gathering. We were loving on each other up in the mountains of, or the kind of the foothills of California. But it's the one and only Amy Steinberg. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Dr. Reverend Amazing Keith Cox. It's so good to be here with you.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. You emanating light of life, you are, with the beautiful colors of the vibrant paintings that I know are your original paintings behind you. And then all
Thank
the
you.
energy off that crystal, and you're here to just shed and share your gift
Yes.
of music and your talent. What song are you singing for us first?
You know, as I was listening to your own sing The Light of Love and everything, I was thinking of what I'm singing. I'm singing Burning into the High, which is like sometimes that light comes from like burning it all down, right?
Wow.
Like and starting over in that phoenix rising and that renew, restore, that what we're talking about today. And so that's what this song is about. It's called Burning into the High. I'm looking at you like on there, like you can see me. I'll look here because
I
it'll
can't.
look like
Well,
I'm looking
I'm
at you.
wonderful. Well, take it away. I'm so excited to hear this song.
Wonderful. I love you.
Love you too.
Under the surface, beneath the wake, in the cold black quiet of my deepest place, there's a pressure moving, and the winds above they whirl. It's the sands of time turning me into a pearl. I'm not afraid to face the fire, to walk to the top of the highest peak. And when my feet become weak and tired, I will flex my faith, let go and leap. The hardest healing feels its feeling, breaking the ceiling and moving into the sky. And the greatest glory stops telling the same story, rises from the fury, burning into the high. Oh, 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 whoa. We all have secrets, and scars of shame. The place is wild that we wish to tame, but no matter how hard that we try to hide, whatever's hiding, guess what? Shows up on the outside. I'm not afraid to face the fire, to walk to the top of the highest peak. And when my feet become weak and tired, I will flex my faith, let go and leap. The hardest healing feels its feeling, breaking the ceiling and moving into the sky. And the greatest glory stops telling the same story, rises from the fury, burning into the high. Oh, 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 oh. The hardest healing feels its feeling, breaking the ceiling and moving into the sky. And the greatest glory stops telling that same old tired old story, rises from the fury, burning into the high, burning into the high, burning into the high. Oh, 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 burning into the high, burning into the high. Wow.
I love it. It's the visual that comes out of that, Amy, is being a rocket ship taking off through space, and as the boosters, right?
Oh, I love
As they
that.
separate, they just burn and disintegrate, but the
Yes.
essence keeps going. I love it.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
God, I love it. I'm gonna send you the MP3 so you have
Oh,
it.
please do. Students, there were people acknowledging their students in class, and I was thinking, oh, we'll play this in class and listen to it. So,
Awesome.
the Journey of Awakening is the title of that class. So, how appropriate, right?
Perfect.
Just beautiful. You're so talented and so
Thank
creative,
you.
and I just love you. So, thank you for being here.
An honor.
Good.
Can't wait to hear your talk
Oh, well, it's
or
going to
your
be a conversation.
conversation.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
conversation talk. Yes. Speaking of that, I'm so excited to share with all of you. Thank you, Amy. As what are you owing about?
I thought I pressed leave the
No,
meeting.
no.
Okay, I'm gonna shut my video off now.
Okay. Bye, Amy. Just love her. So no, as she was saying that she can't wait to hear this conversation, as I can't wait to engage in it with this beloved man who's here. You all are in for a treat today. It's the one and only Reverend David Leonard, who just came on the screen, and so I'm going to introduce him before he says hello. Uh, David Leonard. We are brothers from the same mother in the spiritual context. We both came from the Atlanta Church of Religious Science in the 1980s. And then, as David graduated from ministerial school there, he moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and started to work, correct? And he's been there for seems like 100 years. And for many years, David was considered the New Thought provocateur in our movement because he chose to live from his heart and not his head. And that stirred those old silent minders up. David co-founded, if not founded, a program called the Circle of Love Gatherings. He's been in his relationship with his beloved Trey for many years. We just love him dearly. He's a huge animal lover. He's a piece of my heart and soul, and I can't wait to play with you in this realm. It's just been way too long since we've been face to face and heart to heart, and on the journey that we've been on around the world, living life. Good morning, my beloved.
Good morning, precious one. This is so
How?
nice.
Yeah. So great to have you with us today. I know you've already done service in Huntsville and then you rushed home to get on Zoom for us. So thank you for being here.
It's fun. This is really exciting. Um, I love your production. I feel like I'm on stage again. So this is really good.
You are on stage, baby.
I know
You
you
are
and I
on,
have quite a history, haven't we?
we do. We've somewhere in the early to mid 80s, right? It's just a long, rich history. And so,
I
um,
have memories of you at Selimar at the end dancing. The last night that had a big dance. You are the best dancer in the movement, and
thank you.
yeah,
Thank
and
you. Well, I
yeah.
look forward to those days when we can dance in person again, right?
Oh, I know. I tell
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So this morning we're going to just play in conversation. What is on your mind right now? What is Spirit saying to you that you'd like to talk about?
Oh gosh, you and I we both shared the same teacher, Kennedy Schultz, and
Yes.
he was quite an influence on both of our lives. And the teacher lives in you, even though they're not here. David Walker's still here. I have such vivid memories of him. I see him in South Africa when we were at the Parliament of the World Religions, and I watched his heart open as he saw the orphans. I saw him completely transformed. I watched our teacher, Kennedy Schultz. His heart opened at the end of his life when he had the brain tumor. And when someone would come, a practitioner would talk principle to him, he said, "Oh, don't talk to me about that stuff." He said, "I need you to hold me." So I
Oh,
watched him soften. And then he said to me, "David, you have to tell them I was wrong. It's all about the love."
yeah.
So I'm so glad that you used that as your opening, because that's a way to honor the teacher. But Kennedy, I remember when I was a student, young guy in my 30s, Kennedy said, "You students are here to eclipse me as your teacher." He said, "I have eclipsed Raymond, and you are here to eclipse me." And I think what Kennedy was pointing toward was this evolution of consciousness. And I think that's what I would like to talk about, because I think you and I are a different way of New Thought teacher. We come about it from the heart. We face the darkness, like Amy sang about. We allow the feelings to come. We don't deny the feelings. I remember when I learned spiritual mind treatment from my beloved teacher, you would deny what you didn't want and you would affirm what you do want. But then
Correct.
what happens? It just gets stuffed in there, like Amy's saying about, and later on it shows up in your life. So I think you and I bring a whole new way of approaching New Thought to the world. one where we don't shame the darkness or shame the shadow, but we actually bring it in. And I loved your opening inclusive statements. You know that beautiful thing about oneness? Oneness includes everything. Nothing's
Yes.
excluded. And that means the pile of doo-doo on the side of the road is brought into oneness. You don't just say, oh, that's no. It all has to be embraced. So I think you and I are the new order of New Thought Minister.
Well, I think we are, and at the same time, you and I are both probably receiving invitations for AARP on a regular basis. So we're here to have students that eclipse us as well. Um, the the element of what you're saying, I agree, because I think that it's important for us, and I say this often, and I think it's important to say it, is that the key to being an alive, evolutionary, new thoughtonian, right, is to have a freaking new thought. Right?
That's
It doesn't do us any good if we're staying in that old, staid ideology. And so that is what's being called for through us. And you're right, the component of honoring the shadow is critical. The shadow, for those that may not know that, is considered the dark side of life, both at the level of consciousness and the experiential level. The key is to honor it and to not stay there, but to look at that as part of the totality, right? I mean, and that's not a new concept in the modern world. I mean, all we have to do is look at the yin and yang symbol, right? And so it's been around for quite some time. I have a quote here from Carl Jung, speaking of the shadow, that says the most dangerous psychological mistake is the projection of the shadow onto others. This is the root of almost all conflicts.
right. And Jung also says the unexamined life isn't worth living. So the willingness to look at your own shadow, your own shame, and to find it. Oftentimes, the stuff that I was mostly, my shadows was the unembraced parts of me. After I had the heart attack, I went to a teacher in Colorado, and they were talking about shame. I said, oh, I don't have shame. I was in that religious science denial place. And then all of a sudden, a little 6-year-old from within me came, who was shamed from the time, this little gay boy who was coming up, who was told he was an abomination of God. So he shows up after the heart attack, and the advice was invite him in and ask him what he needs. So
Right.
when that vulnerable part of me came up at age 69, I says, what do you need? And that little boy said, I need you to hold me, just like Kennedy said at the end of his life. And because I wasn't going to go to a bunch of strangers, I ran to a tree and I said, I held on to the tree. And then I realized that the tree was holding me. And so I realized that we're so interconnected to this mystery of belonging to the universe. You know, Barbara Marx Hubbard was one of my teachers, and she was in AGNT, and she talked about evolving into what she calls Homo Universalis, the universal human. And that I think that's what our centers are doing. We're evolving into this new order of being where we include all. And we don't call ourselves the best religion on the planet. That's such hubris. You know, they all come together and work together in a very dynamic way. We just finished teaching a class, Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Change, and it was based on Pema Chodron's little book. Your people would love that. It's so good you want to eat it. But she talks about, you know, here, and you know the funny thing about Buddhism, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, Buddhism at its heart is the science of mind. Quote from himself, Holiness is Dalai Lama. So when you know it's the science of mind, and in this, she has the 3 little commitments. The first commitment is not to harm yourself. That means be conscious about what you're saying because you're creating it, you're putting it into the law. The second one is to help one another. That's something that we could learn in religious sciences, to open our hearts and to embrace everyone. We have recovery groups at our center that are just exploding because people show up and they need help, you know? My little sound man told me this morning that he's going into a month-long recovery, and I didn't have a sound man. And I thought, well, you know, the universe will provide. And sure enough, someone showed up. I have no idea what happened, but I realized he just needs to be held. And then the last commitment that she talked about, and I think we in New Thought could really embrace this one, embrace the world just as it is, and then bring the light into the darkness. Mm-hmm. You know, we just had Derek Chauvin. I watched that thing. I realized I'm living through history. It was like watching 9/11 for me.
Yes.
The case. I remember when I was a brand new minister, Keith, and I had just gotten the church in Huntsville, and they had the thing with Rodney King in Los Angeles. And I went into the congregation that Sunday here in the Deep South, and I said, Rodney King says, can't we all just get along? I had a woman walk out on me that I would actually quote Rodney King because she was a racist. Did you know that last night Trey found this meaningful show for me to watch on Hulu. It was the United States versus Billie Holiday.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh my God. And the opening scene, this was so miserable. You talk about evolution in consciousness. The opening scene is 1937. United States Congress tries to abolish lynching. It didn't pass.
Right.
It didn't pass. And then I thought of us with this racial strife in our country. We have to be willing to face our own racism. And then in that, find our humanity, find our inclusivity. There was a young boy that came to the center, and I hadn't seen him. He's a very pretty thing. And I said, hi, my name is David. And he said, my name is Mia. I'm a trans. I said, oh, Mia. And she said, I was thrown out of my home in Moulton, Alabama. So then I went to the next biggest city and they threw me out. So now I'm here. And I put my arms around her. This is before COVID. And I said, you have a home here, my love. Right. You don't have to run away anymore. So we have to evolve into this inclusivity.
Right.
Know?
And so that evolution that you're speaking of is not even really about evolving into inclusivity, about evolving in letting go of what's contrary to that. Because if we live in one, if we are an expression of oneness, then our actions we're being called for our actions to reflect our spiritual truth, right? That's the journey that Barbara Marx Hubbard talks of conscious evolution. In a class that I taught recently, I used her as an example, and one of her quotes is, we're called here to live from our essence, not our ego, right? And all of that other stuff is based in ego. But it's also important for us to understand that as we're welcoming individuals, as we're honoring the unity of life, as we're honoring our own shame that we have, as we're choosing to open our heart, as we're learning to embrace, those are all multifaceted components of our life that exist simultaneously. It's not, as Maureen, our beloved Maureen Hoyt says, we don't live in a world of or, it's a world of and, right? And so I think that that's what we're called to do as modern day students of science of mind, is to continue to honor the layers of the and, right? To not live from a place of doctrine of it has to be black or white, right? Like I can be confused and I can know I'm spiritual truth and I'm feeling fear and I'm evolving to a higher frame of consciousness and I trust the law, right? And I'm scared to do that and I want to be loved and I'm scared that I'm going to be loved, right? All of those can exist simultaneously. It's all about building that faith musculature in the essence of what is.
I totally agree with you. And I'm glad that you mentioned this idea of death and rebirth, because, you know, my first Sunday in Huntsville 33 years ago was Easter Sunday. And I remember I spoke about the resurrection, and it's a principle. It's not an action that happened. And it's about this death and rebirth. So this Sunday morning, as I'm getting excited about seeing you, I get a text from my prayer partner, and he says, I'll be on in 10 minutes. He's in California. It's 5 a.m. and I'm 7 a.m. And then he sends me this little thing. There are no accidents. It was Richard Rohr's daily thing for today, and it was about the apocalypse. And the apocalypse, he says, Christians call it when the world's going to end, and what do they call that? People all rise from the dead.
Armageddon, right?
Armageddon and the something.
About when the people rise to the
that thing. And so he says they got it all wrong. He says apocalypse comes from the Greek word, which means unveiling. And what they were saying is you have to die to an old way of seeing things and then lift the veil and see things with new eyes. And I think that's what you and I are saying. But it does require a crucifixion in order to have a resurrection. You have to be willing to die. This young man came for the first time to our center, and he came from his recovery group. And he said, we want to tell us about your past. He said, oh, it was toxic. All I can say was toxic. And the people in the circle said, welcome to the toxic group, because we've all had it. And then he shared how he was raised in the Fundamentalist Baptist church, and he even became an evangelical preacher. And he says, I couldn't stand what I was doing. I was trying to convert people. And then what made matters even worse was I was gay. And my whole family said I'm an abomination. So he said, I hated myself. I was in this teaching. I had this very small God. And he said, and I'm only 42. And he said, I feel like I'm 1 year old because I'm just beginning to see things with new eyes. And I said, how wonderful it is. Something is dying in you so that something is being unveiled and you're beginning to see clearly.
Right. And so that's the key to the resurrection. I talked about this on Easter. So it's not only the crucifixion must happen, that engagement in the death. then the death must happen to the old idea. And then the resurrection is you're rising to a higher framework of mind that is then engaging the Christ consciousness within, right? That's the key to it, right? That's the he is risen part, is that then letting the Christ consciousness make itself known to you. And then the key in our teaching and awaken to new thought is to then act in accordance, right? To act in accordance. And then when you're not acting in accordance, forgive yourself, take a deep breath, get back in the saddle, continue writing your journey of finding personal self-empowerment through your own spiritual awakening, and do the work, right? Do the work. This quote I have to take us forward, it says, it's all connected. Your gifts, your circumstance, your purpose, your journey, your destiny, it's molding you. Embrace it.
Yeah, that's it. I know. So this is the life that you've been given. Could you really cherish it with all of its foibles?
Correct.
And sometimes we need to have those moments where it feels like we're dying, and yet it's really just a birth of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But aren't we always dying?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, isn't that the minute we're born, then that's the next step of this infinite journey that we're on.
So you embrace death as a part of life.
Right.
But what we are was never born, and what we are never dies. I remember my very first funeral quoted the Bhagavad Gita in Alabama. That didn't go over so well, but I don't tell them where it's from. But the Bhagavad Gita said, spirit was never born, spirit never dies. And when you know yourself as a spiritual being, I mean, like I was sharing with you, I feel that the teacher still lives in me. Kennedy still lives in me. And when I look in your face, somehow I feel him. And, you know, he used to adamantly tell us, he said, you're not here to comfort the afflicted. You're here to afflict the comfortable. You're here to stand up to the ignorance, call it for what it is. And then he would follow by saying, ignorance is temporary, David, but stupid is forever. So sometimes, you know, when you can't change the stupid, we have a lot of stupidity in Alabama. And I think you have a little in California. But
California is a big state, yes.
I used to live there. Anyway, so it's so good to see you.
So good to see you too.
You and I sang in the Agape choir. They don't know that, do they?
Say that again?
We were in the Agape choir.
Oh, they know. They don't know that you and I were, but they've heard me talk about singing in the Agape choir all the time because our guest musician oftentimes is Arne Batson. You remember Arne? She was the thing. Yeah. So you said you have a couple of questions to ask me.
Yeah. One of the questions I have is, what brings you alive in your ministry at this stage? I'm constantly challenged with that question after 33 years.
So what brings me alive is the mystery of it. It's the work, which sometimes can be overwhelming, but it's the mystery of it. It's when I said yes to this center and this role, I made a commitment to myself to take every day to the best of my ability as a spiritual experiment and to consciously look at it as that, is that what do I believe? What am I practicing? What do I know? Am I willing to grow? Can I see things anew? Can I show up and do what I didn't think I could? All of that. And so it's the mystery of that from the lens of my own personal spiritual awakening, right? And so I so often hear Dr. Maureen Hoyt tell me, you know, if you connect with one person, then you've done your duty. And so when there are those moments of thinking to myself, why the hell? Like, really? Like, couldn't I have just been a beautician, you know? You know, and then something shows up. And so like this week, I do this thing called, I've called it a new thought for the day, but it's a text that goes out every morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. And it's been, people add people to the list. I know that you get it. And so the other day I received this response from this woman that said, thank you for this. You don't know how appropriate this is right now and timely. She was shepherding her mother to the other side. And so she kept reading that text over and over to her mother as her mother went to the next dimension, right? It touches one's heart. I don't know who this woman is, right? I don't know who the woman was that was passing. I don't even know who the woman is that was on the text chain. But what that then turns around and reminds me is exactly what Maureen says the purpose of being in ministry is. It's that propagation of the awakening, right? So just as I'm talking about that with you, it takes me back to the resonance field within me of when I said yes to doing this work, and realizing that the yes was so present that no never had a chance, right? So
And you started with the youth, which I just love,
I
working.
did, yeah.
And I think that they transmit themselves to you. I watched this documentary series. I think it's called 1 Year to Save the World. And it's the story of Greta Thunberg, the little 18-year-old girl from Sweden. And you talk about being called to a purpose. And when you mentioned I should have been a beautician, her father said to her, he travels the whole world with her when she speaks to thousands of people. He says, couldn't you just been a dancer and I take you to your dance class? And she said, Dad, would you really want me to just be a dancer? But you know what she says, which touched me so deeply? She speaks to these large crowds. She says, I don't want you, and I'm grateful that you came to hear me. I don't want you to hear me. I want you to hear the science that I'm
Right.
presenting to you. And so she presents this bigger something and asks us to evolve into a different way of looking at our planet, that our planet is sentient. I like your things, what you stand for. You said, we honor all sentient beings. This planet is sentient. It
Correct.
has feelings. I have gardens. My plants feel things. I have a little nest of wrens on the front porch, and every time I go out there, the mother wren says, "Get the hell off my front porch. This is my bird." So you learn to listen to nature. They share this planet with us.
Right.
So yeah, I'm at 72. I continue to evolve, and that's what I think we as ministers need to example, don't you, to our congregation, that we continue to grow, because the day we stop growing is the day we stop really offering something fresh and new.
I agree.
And just in reconnecting with you, you're igniting the sparks, and I love your daily thing. I read it religiously, and I like that it's just short enough, but you're planting a seed, and then
Right.
that seed has the potential to just grow. And what's so amazing in this synchronistic universe? It's all so appropriate. The thing you send out seems to be the exact thing that I need, and I don't know how that is, but I know that it is.
Well, we do know how that is because we, in our philosophy, faith, and way of life, known as the science of mind, and other new thought teachings that we practice, we're told that there's only one mind,
No, that's right.
right? So then we have the opportunity to have a new thought around that one mind of like, well, of course there's synchronicity, right? Right, of course there is, right? Of course our sentient beings are saying, get the hell off my front porch, right? It's because that is, right? Because that's the out picturing, that's the demonstration, based on our conversation yesterday, that's the demonstration of life showing us the truth of what it is that we know, right? So what we're called then is to know that we know it and open up to it, right?
Yeah, and be willing. We talk about the mind a lot, but I've at 72 years of age, having taught the science of mind for a gazillion years. You mentioned 45 years married, 33 years in ministry, and now at this stage, I court the beginner's mind and the beginner's heart. I want to be in that place where I don't know. I don't have any of the answers, and then I'm teachable. Then I can hear, that something that still small voice that doesn't get louder but gets clearer when I get still. So I've learned to kind of quiet my mind that has all the answers. And I've learned that the ego wants answers, but the soul wants to find meaning.
Right.
So I'm constantly in the ministry trying to find the meaning in what you and I do. And the conference that you and I attended, the last one of our Circle of Love gatherings, we had all these new graduates that come from Holmes Institute.
Right.
And we did this interview. And I remember you and I were on the panel. And the question was, how can we be relevant as a spiritual movement in this time when there is so much chaos, there's so much darkness? We need to bring the light. We don't need to deny the darkness. The darkness needs to be brought in, and we need to find the light within the darkness, like this whole race experiencing in the country and this environmental thing. Somehow see it with eyes.
Uh-huh. David, you're
Have the new
freezing.
prayer.
Are you there?
Oh, you're frozen.
Oh, now
Am I
think
good now?
Let's all take a deep breath and just engage the rhythm of the oneness of technology. Okay, there you are, I think. So I hope we didn't lose David. Oh, no, we did. So he'll come back. What a joy it is to have him with us today, sharing his wisdom. And so I was about to say to him, as he was saying that we're here to bring the light, I believe that we're here to be the light. And so it's from being the light that we'll then be able to share it with others. The quote I was about to give him, and when he comes back to us, I'll be happy to do that if we can get him back online, is from Rumi. He's a huge, there he is. You're back. So just take a deep breath there and turn your microphone back on.
Okay, there we
There you
go.
are. So what I was saying when you went into the darkness there for a second, remember the oneness, life itself, no craziness there,
I
right?
need to evolve in Zoom land. You need to evolve me in Zoom land.
I will,
And
honey.
still, okay,
I will. But what I was saying, I think it's obviously what we were just speaking of is that there's both darkness and light, and then you went into the darkness, right? So what I was just saying to the right, to those that are following us and watching today was that um, my response to what you're saying of we need to bring the light is that I look at it a bit different, that we're here to be the light.
be the light.
And as we be the light, then we will obviously attract into our world more and more of that. And then as we emit that light, that ripple effect will make a difference out into the planet. In that context, in the class I'm teaching right now called The Journey of Awakening, this week I called our students to commit to becoming a saint, and not in the old ideology, but in the ideology of living in the light, right? Of committing to being that light as you walk the pathway of life, and then to physically show up making a difference, right? To remember that you're living from that place of holiness and putting an imprint on humanity. So David, I know that you're a huge fan of Rumi.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to give you a quote, see how that sparks you on Rumi. So when I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of stress and anxiety. If I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me and without pain. From this, I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me and attracting me. There is a great secret here for anyone who can grasp it.
Right. It says in a Sufi that all your efforts won't get you to the first way station. So, and they also say in Sufism, you take one step toward the beloved and the beloved comes running toward you. So all you have to do is just say, I am open, I am willing. And then this presence will come running. I'd like that you told your students to become a saint, because the definition of a saint in my world is a sinner who never gave up.
Oh, I
and
love
St.
that.
Francis was asked, isn't that? And St. Francis was asked, why would God choose you of all people to have his word made manifest? And St. Francis, in his humility and saintly way, said, because God could find no more lowly sinner than me.
I love
See,
it.
isn't it beautiful? And so then when the sinner can become, they're not separate. The
Right.
sinner and the
But it's
saint.
important for us to, for those that are listening to us that may get triggered by that word sin, to understand the origin of the word, right? It's missing the mark. And so in our teaching, it's not thinking that highest idea, right? It's not living from that place of the qualities of the divine, of peace and power and beauty and joy, light, life, love, and wisdom. That's all it is. And so if we're expressing something that's not that, all that's required of us is to stop, forgive ourselves, go, okay, girl, get over it, Blanche. Take a deep breath and go, all right, I'm ready to start anew, because that's the nature of nature, right?
It is. Yeah. So then it's all included. Nothing is excluded in one. It's in the science of mind, you and I've taught it for a gazillion years. And sometimes there's one little sentence that will blow you away, like the Rumi quote you gave me. Like, here's my favorite Rumi quote. Rumi says, what you think of love are but subtle degrees of domination and servitude. He says, but true love comes fully formed like the moonlight in the window. Now, if you're someone like me, true love comes fully formed like the moonlight in the window, must mean that it's already there.
Right.
And it has equanimity, right? So could we know a love that's already there, that we don't have to, think of, do you love me or don't you love me? This domination. We've got this idea around relationships about love, which Rumi says is all wrong. The love we're seeking is the love that we are. Correct. Then, I would love it if science of mind could be science of mind and heart. Because, underneath this teaching that has continually evolved since the time Ernest Holmes wrote the first text to the way we are preaching now, he says in there, all is love and all is law. And then he says to let the love lead the way. Well, then why don't we talk about the love? You and I talk about the love freely. And this love is the big love. It's not this human, you're mine and I'm yours kind of love. No, it's this love that has us.
Right.
and to play in that realm is so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. So what if we called it the science of mind from the heart,
Oh no, that's lovely.
right?
Put the head in the heart and let them come together. I'm
Oh,
not discounting the head. I have a brilliant mind, but the head has to serve the, I think, and when the head serves the heart, then the love is leading the way.
right,
Then when the wren didn't say, get the hell off the front porch. The wren was saying, I'm trying to take care of my babies. Can't you
right.
see that? I didn't see her as swearing at me. I just said, okay, honey, you're doing a good job. You're flying in and out with worms in your mouth. They're chirping in the little nest. They're shitting all over the front porch, but that's fine because I can clean that up later.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
what she's probably saying is sit down, you wild child, take a deep breath, and watch me express my love. You
And,
know,
and I do that. I sit in the
oh, I know
rocking
you
chair
do.
on the side of the porch.
I've
I,
been on
I, I
your
do.
front
I want.
porch and your back porch. I know you do that. So that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, we have.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just want to say to you before we wrap up here, because we're getting close to the end of our time, is your teacher is very, very proud of you.
Oh,
And
thank you. You
you've,
thinking Kennedy?
yeah. And you've done great by him and by humanity, and thank you for doing the work that you've done and taking this teaching to Alabama and showing up as you do on this earth. And I know that you show up as yourself everywhere you go, and you've touched countless number of lives. And for that, for humanity, I say thank you for that.
Well, and I want to say something about your teachers. Your teachers live in you. They express as you. So I see David Walker and Kennedy Schultz. And when it gets outrageous, you know that they're having their way with Keith, because both of them, would speak the truth. And Kennedy used to say, the truth will set you free, David, but first it pisses you off. And when you tell people the truth, they don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear it. And Kennedy would also say, when someone would ask him a very provocative question, he'd say, it's not what I think that matters, it's what you think. So he would hand the question back to them, and he taught through his example of how I get to do my ministry. When someone asks me, what is that all about? And I said, what is it all about for you? And then in unveiling, sometimes they have to have a death and a rebirth, because sometimes what we think isn't the correct way of thinking. And that's where I like the idea of when you can change. And I love this. This is Carl Jung. He said also, it's not about changing their thinking that'll change your life. He said, when you change the way you're living your life, then your thinking will naturally change.
Oh,
Isn't
thank
that
you,
beautiful?
Carl. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. When you change the way you live
Yeah.
your life, your thinking changes. Yeah. And you and I were always out there dancing on the dance floor when they said, don't do that.
Oh, of
Whatever
course.
you do, David, whatever you do, don't do that. And then you and I, of course, would do it.
Of
So,
course. Yes,
of
of
course.
course we will.
And you always gave me permission, always.
Oh, honey, you gotta set it free, right? You can't. It's like the cage bird needs to dance and sing and then dance and then love and then love. So, you remember when those old ideas of trying to constrain us? Those are just their ideology of fear and their ideas. It wasn't my idea, right? So. Um, and of course, we needed to be rebellious when we were. So, for those of you that are listening and watching, when David speaks of Kennedy, he's speaking of Kennedy Schultz, who was the founding minister of the Atlanta Church of Religious Science, and who we both were both students and members there in the 1980s, right? And then he left this plane of action sometime, was it the late 90s he left? Early
Oh, he left in
2000s?
the year 2000, right after my mother died. Yeah. My mom died in September, and he died really shortly after that.
Right.
And it
And
was
so
really amazing.
he, along with David Walker, the teacher we're speaking of that I had at the Los Angeles trip, were those old school metaphysicians that were very stern and very strict, and there were a lot of rules you had to follow. But that all came from the teachers they followed, who were all students of Ernest Holmes, right? So it was all about adapting to the world while trying to interject new ideology. And so that's exactly what we're doing today. David, the last quote I have for us today is, and see if this sparks anything before we say goodbye and let Amy come back on to give her gifts, is the path isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. You continually come back to the things you thought you understood and see deeper truths.
Yeah, that's so true. It isn't a straight path, it isn't linear. And it is a spiral, an ascending spiral. I remember Emerson, he says, go into the forest in the darkest place where no path has been forged, and that is where you start your path. So each of us, it's the pathless path, and we've got to find it. And it isn't ascending, because this shadow stuff will come around, and then it'll come around again. But you're less reactive. It doesn't trigger you that much. Oh, there you are. There's that little shamed boy. Oh, come on in. I can hear what you have to say. Here's my controlling part. I have controlling, Curtis. My one addiction, and I have a little of it too, is I like to be in control. And then I hear this voice in the back of my head says, he thinks he has control. Control is an illusion. And then I let go of this control idea. Like when we went into La La Land on Zoom, I thought, oh, I'm not in control again.
So I just love it. The voice that you have that speaks to you. I can see her with a really tight beehive hairdo. I won't name names because that would be disrespectful, but I do see it. So
yeah.
All right. Well, David, I love you. Thank you for being here today. Stay on. You can turn your camera off. Stay on. Amy's going to sing, and then you're going to come back and guide us through either a meditation or a spiritual mind treatment in the end.
Yeah, I have a little thing I'd like to do for you that I did this Sunday at church.
Oh, great. So we'll bring you back in. There's Amy Steinberg. So Amy, are you ready to sing? There, she's ready.
Well, I'm filled up to overflowing, you know what I mean? I love that image of the beehive. That was great. I feel you both and me. You are, I consider, my teachers. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting by, you know how I feel. Sun up in the sky, I know you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, I know you know how I feel. Blossom up in the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, and I'm feeling good. Yeah. Oh, the dragonfly out in the sun. I know you know how I feel. Oh, butterflies having fun. Ooh, I know you know, the sleeping peace when the day is done, and I know how I feel. This whole world is a new world and a bold world for me. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, oh, I know you know. Well, freedom is mine, and I know you know how I feel. Oh, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. Yeah, for all of us, and for me, yeah, I'm feeling good.
Yes.
That was fun.
What a wonderful rendition.
Thank you.
Yeah. And look at David. He's coming back to say, yeah, hello.
Oh my God.
I love you,
Hey,
David.
Just
so
love you both. So love you, love you. So, David, we're not quite ready for the prayer yet, but we will be in just a second. All right. So, Amy, thank you so much for that beautiful rendition. So, David, their screens are popping everywhere. I love it. What a new day. What a new dawn. Good. So, thank you. Thank you. David, I'm going to turn your camera off for just a moment and then we'll bring you back on when we're ready. Okay. So now is the time, everyone, to honor our community with your conscious giving, which is so deeply appreciated and acknowledged as we continue on this journey as a community of finding our own personal self empowerment through a spiritual awakening. We've been very blessed during this time, as all of time in life, and we continue to affirm that those blessings continue to make themselves known both in your life and through the life of the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles, because as we talked about earlier this morning, there is really only one life. And so please know that in advance, it's all appreciated. And the methods that you can use for supporting our community is go to our website at csl-la.org and click on donate. And that will take you through the mechanics to do that, as well as you can use the app, which both are the app and the website are wonderful tools for all that takes place here in our community. The Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles is the name of the app, and you can click on the upper left bars. The screen will come up and you can see the donate tab, or you can mail in a check. Our address is CSL-LA, 1200 North La Brea Avenue, West Hollywood, California, 90038, or you can call me personally at 310-963-1653 and I can handle it for you. While we all take a moment to do that, Yaron will come back on screen and take us through our song called Love Is My Decision, which is our conscious giving song. Thank you, Yaron.
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, source will show me how. Love is my decision, yeah, my decision right here, right now.
So I affirm for each of us that love indeed is our decision, hearing love in a new way today, as well as we align ourselves with this abundance of nature that is here for us to consciously participate in. And so we give of that in the financial means today in a way to propagate good in our own life, benefiting not only the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles, but all of humanity. For good is propagating itself out of itself, multiplying and returning to us in a nature of abundance, for that's how it works. We honor it, we use it, we are it, and we let it be as we say together. Amen, and so it is. Thank you, Yaron, for taking us through that song. We'd love to give you an update on some things that are taking place here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles on Wednesday morning at 8:30 to 9 a.m. I do a guided meditation. It takes place on Zoom. It's a great way to anchor yourself into the week, the mid part of the week, and I will guide us through that. It's usually 15 to 25 minutes, somewhere in there, even though it's in the mornings and you come on screen. You don't necessarily have to be on screen, and you also don't have to look pretty because we don't publish the visual of that. So know that as you take the time to commit to your own personal self-growth, to step in and take part in those meditations, as well as those meditations are then put on our YouTube channel, I believe, and our Facebook page. But you have access to them, and you can get all of that information through our website and our app. The new series that I spoke of earlier, class called The Journey of Awakening, continues this week. We move into class 4. It's just a great way to stir up in our minds the opportunity to look at life anew, to look at this teaching, this philosophy, this faith, this way of life anew, to look at a new way to incorporate very simple spiritual practices in our daily journey of life, so as to awaken the spirit that was within us in a new way. I invite you to please participate and partake in these classes. They're just very, very rich. They're Wednesday evenings from 6:30 to 8:30. Then you can come and take one class at a time if you don't want to take the whole series. And if you sign up to take a class, we can give you the link to the previous 3 classes that you can go online and watch the recordings of those and get the handouts through our Google groups. So that's the information on that. And I believe that that is it for the visuals that we have. Oh, I love that one. So also just a reminder that the text goes out every Wednesday morning, every morning at 7:30. If you're receiving those, I hope you're enjoying those. It's called A New Thought for the Day. It's a stimulus to anchor yourself in the day, and feel free to fast forward or forward those on to others. I'm sorry, there's all kinds of things buzzing. People are texting me and stuff's going on here, so I'm just getting a little thrown with all the energy. As well as forward those on, or if you'd like for me to add the names of anyone you have permission to share those, I'll be happy to add those to the list. A huge thank you today for all of you for being here and enjoying this service. I'm affirming that you did enjoy the service that we had today, and the opportunity to hear things anew on this journey of our finding personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. A huge thank you to Yaron Spiwak, for our music director this morning. As always, doing wonderful things and really shaking it up, and most importantly, creating a special song for us, an original song for the theme this month of Renew, Refresh, Restore. A huge thank you to Robert Hensley and Travis Smith for supporting us in the technological field and keeping us lined up with where we need to go and how we need to do it and how we need to support the world through social media. Also want to invite you to support us in social media through our Facebook page, as well as our Instagram page, as well as to follow us on YouTube. A huge thank you to our guest musician today, the one, the only Amy Steinberg, for bringing her light and life to us today. So Amy, thank you for being here today. And of course, thank yous do not even begin to describe the appreciation and the love that I have for my beloved soul brother from the same mother, named David Leonard. And so as David comes back online right now to take us out in prayer or meditation or a gift that he has for us, I want to say thank you to all of you and remind you that as your week unfolds before you, to stay grounded in who you know yourself to be, to remember that the power of the divine is indeed present within you and ready to express itself in all of its glory. And so David is going to come on and take us out. And for those of you that are joining us through Facebook, thank you for being here, as well as Zoom. And after David takes us out in meditation and or prayer, there he is, we will disconnect from Facebook and say goodbye. And those of us on Zoom can stay on and have just a quick little chat. Hi, David.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hi. So you're ready to take us out?
I'll just say a couple of things. Our teacher used to say an opportunity belongs to the one who takes it. So Keith is giving you all these beautiful opportunities, and it takes time to grow a garden. It takes time to grow a consciousness. And I'm so grateful that I went into that first class and I haven't stopped taking and teaching since. And the other thing I would say is there's a principle in the Inca spirituality called sacred reciprocity, which basically says, if you have been blessed, you owe it to give back. And so I always remember, you can't outgive your good, and you get so much good from this incredible man. So please think of that when you support his ministry. And I want to close with a prayer from Mark Nepo, and Amy Steinberg, thank you for that song, Feeling Good, because the truth is we feel our way into the truth. We feel our way into love. And so this is his prayer for the earth. And I want you to feel this. This is Mark Nepo. It's called the Earth Prayer. O endless creator, force of life, seat of the unconscious, Dharma, Atman, Ra, Galb, dear center of love, Christ light, Yahweh, Allah, Mawa, and mother of the universe. Boy, he covered them all, didn't he? He says, let us, when swimming with the stream, become the stream. And let us, when moving with the music, become the music. And let us, when rocking the wounded, become their suffering. Let us live deeply enough till there is only one direction. And let us live slowly enough till there is only one beginning of time. And let us live loud enough in our hearts till there is no need for us to speak. Let us live from the grace beneath all that we want. And let us see in everything and in everyone till we admit to the mystery that when I look deeply enough into you, I find me. And when you dare to hear my fears in the recesses of your heart, you recognize it as your own secret fears, which you thought no one else would know. Oh, let us embrace that unexpected moment of unity, beloveds, as the atom of God in us, and let us have the courage to hold each other when we break and worship what unfolds. O nameless spirit that is not done with us yet, let us love without a net, beyond the fear of death, until the speck of peace that we guard so well becomes our world. I'll read that last little part. O nameless spirit that is not done with us yet, let us love without a net, beyond the fear of death, until that speck of peace, that essential self that we guard so well, ultimately becomes the world. And so we've been called to that higher order of being, as Keith said. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a better place. So let's start being that. And we take this call of the world into the call of our soul, because it's the one soul, the one life, the one world that exists simultaneously throughout creation, whether it's a dragonfly, a butterfly, or the wind that blows, or the streams that flow. It's the one life revealing itself to us. And as we look and we see it, it's because we know that we are not separate from it. Thank you, divine intelligence, for evolving this consciousness called Keith and David into a realization that there really ultimately is no Keith or David. There is only the beloved revealing herself yet again. So I know the spirit of Rumi lives in us. I know that the spirit of our teachers live in us. I know the expectations of the ancestors live in us. And so Keith and I, we surrender to that call to serve the one. And you can't outserve God. And so as we serve the one, we are being served in every way that we could imagine, in ways we can't even imagine. So thank you for this opportunity to be here with my beloved brother and with all this beautiful community and virtual world, and all the creative sparks of genius that are within and all around, waiting to be revealed. We celebrate you, we honor you, we respect you, we love you. So it is.
And so it is. Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. I look forward to, I'm going to request that you send that prayer from Mark Nemo to me. David, you're such a gift, and I just love having shared this time together. It's just been a restoring and renewal act of my soul, and I know it has been for everyone that's been here. What a blessing today has been. So thank you. I love you. And please give a hug and a kiss to my beloved Trey as we say goodbye. All right. Hang on. Stay on the line if you want to say hello to the CSL-LA peeps. For those of you that are joining us through Facebook, a big goodbye to all of you. May you have a fantastic week ahead. Remember who you are and make a difference out on this planet consciously and lovingly. We're now saying goodbye to you.